Now, as the name of this video implies, this is actually part 7 of a story, so unless you want to be very lost and confused, I'd recommend starting at part 1, and if you like it, working your way back to this part. I'll include a link to all previous parts in the description below in case you've missed any. And without further ado, let's get back into the story. We get a shot of the Millennium Falcon as it flies through hyperspace, and then we're on board and in the cargo bay where we see Anakin, now back in Vader's suit, lying on the floor, and we can hear his infamous mechanical breathing, only it's wheezy and clearly labored. Nearby stand Kanan and Leia, talking softly. "He's going to be fine, Leia," Kanan assures. "Think of everything he's already been through in his life." Leia frowns. "I try not to think about everything he's been through. Anakin and I were only allowed to have a few sessions together on Yavin, as I tried to help him purge the dark side, as Yoda taught me was possible. And he's already told me so many things, so many horrible things that he's done." Leia shuts her eyes and falls silent. Kanan then takes her by the hand and smiles at her. "He can come back from all of that, as long as you believe in him." Leia gives a slight smile and looks up at Kanan and asks, "Do you believe he can come back?" Kanan gives an ever so slight shrug. "All I know is that I believe in you." We then get a shot of the Falcon coming out of hyperspace, not far from a drab-looking brownish world. And then we're in the cockpit with Han and Chewie just as Leia enters. She sits behind Chewie, looking at the world they're fast approaching and comments, "Lothal Minor, a junk world. Seems like a fitting place for this ship." Chewie seems to laugh and roars something to Han, who replies, "Hey, I do my fair share of the repairs around here too, you know." He then glances over his shoulder at Leia and adds, "And this ship got you here, remember? And it'll get you out of here just as fast if any of your Imperial or Rebel friends show up." We're then outside the Falcon again, and watch as it approaches the planet and enters the atmosphere. It's not long before the Falcon is then skimming across a world covered in mountains of junk and garbage, and inhabited by huge beast-like machines that tend to it all. Back in the cockpit now, Leia says, "This seems like an odd place to find the best doctor in the whole galaxy." Han replies, "Well, because it's a garbage world, there are different Imperial regulations here. Dr. Search found some type of loophole that allows everything he does here to be perfectly legal. And since so many senators, Imperials, and other wealthy and important beings come to him, no one's all too interested in closing that loophole." Leia says nothing to that, and instead leans forward as she watches them approach a small compound that's set in a large clearing devoid of most garbage. And soon enough, the Falcon has landed at the compound, and though it's not much to look at from the outside, once Kanan, who is the first to enter, is inside, we find everything is bright, clean, and sterile looking, and reminds us very much of Kamino. In fact, it's a Kaminoan who enters the waiting area and moves to greet Kanan and says, "Ah yes, I see what the issue is. Though it may be rude of me to say since you cannot see, which is no doubt why you've come to me. I shall repair your eyes, and you will be on your way shortly, for a nominal fee, of course." Kanan quickly shakes his head. No, that's not why we're here. Wait, you can fix my eyes?" The doctor seems almost offended. "Why, of course. This is not why you've come to me?" Kanan shakes his head. "Well, no, but..." He then lowers his head and sighs. "But it's okay. It was the will of the Force that I lost my vision. Besides, in my life, I've learned that the ugliness of this galaxy outweighs its beauty. I don't need to see any of it ever again." Just then, Leia Anderson calls out, "Kanan, is everything okay? Can we bring him in now?" Kanan slowly raises his head, and it takes a moment or two for him to answer because he seems suddenly lost in deep thought. Yeah, everything's okay. I'll be there in a moment to help you." Leia turns and leaves, and then the doctor smiles. "Are you certain there is nothing in this galaxy you ever wish to gaze upon again, my Jedi friend?" Kanan snaps back, "What makes you think I'm a Jedi?" The doctor answers, "You mentioned the will of the Force a moment ago, and I am, to a small degree, able to sense the Force, I guess you could say, though nothing like a Jedi can. It in no small part allows me to be so good at what I do here. And I also worked closely with the Jedi during the Clone Wars on Kamino, and developed a great respect for them, and even, though it's highly illegal, collect and preserve what I can of their legacy. So I just know a Jedi when I see one." Kanan gives a wry smile. "I don't know that you're looking at a true Jedi right now. Hell, I don't know what I really am or what I'm supposed to be. All I keep doing is losing everything I care about. And as a Jedi, I'm not even supposed to let that bother me. But I don't even know why I'm telling you all this." Kanan turns to go, but the doctor says, "I will repair your eyes free of charge, and it will only take moments to do so. It is the least I can do for the part my people played in betraying the Jedi." Kanan gives a slight laugh. You want to start making up for what your people did to the Jedi? Well, then you're going to love the real patient we've got for you to see. We then get a shot of the Death Star, and soon we're inside and in the Emperor's throne room, which looks very much like it did in the second Death Star that we saw in Return of the Jedi. The doors to the chamber then slide open, and the royal guards cross their pikes to block the entrance of a robed and hooded figure. But with one word from the Emperor, who sits lazily upon his throne and gazes out at his galaxy, they allow them, and even give a slight, almost respectful bow to the figure who enters. The figure then approaches and kneels at the base of the steps, and lowers their head as the Emperor slowly turns his throne to face them. The Emperor then speaks. Lord Vader has betrayed us, but this betrayal has left the opportunity for one to rise and take his place at my side. The robed figure raises their head ever so slightly, and a few locks of red hair tumble out from beneath the hood. My lord, begins a female voice, I am ready for this challenge, but how will I find the betrayer? The Emperor opens a compartment in the armrest of his throne and removes a lightsaber. He has been taken to Lothal Minor by the daughter of Skywalker, who also must be dealt with. The figure then responds, Lothal Minor? That means, yes, the Emperor interrupts. She is attempting to bring back Anakin Skywalker in more ways than one. This must not come to pass. Go and destroy them both. Return to me when this task is complete and fulfill your destiny, Mara Jade. The Emperor holds up a lightsaber, and the figure reaches out and force pulls it to her. She ignites it, revealing a reddish-purple blade, and says, Thank you, my lord. I will not fail you. We're then back on Lothal Minor, and with Leia, who is in deep meditation aboard the Falcon. We then see Han approach her, and he stands there for a moment unsure what to do, before finally coughing loudly. Leia's eyes slowly open, and Han says, The doctor wanted me to tell you that everything went well, and you're allowed to see him real soon. Whoever he is exactly. Leia smiles joyfully and then looks around confused. How long has it been? Han shrugs. It's been almost a day. I don't know how you've been quietly doing that this whole time. Leia shrugs as if it's no big deal and says something about her training, which gets a roll of the eyes from Han. She then asks, Where's Kanan? Han takes a deep breath and looks away. Yeah, about that. He wanted me to tell you there was somewhere he had to go. Leia jumps to her feet, looking upset for a moment before quickly calming herself. What? He left? How? Where'd he go? Han holds up his hands defensively. Hey, he didn't tell me where he was going. All I know is this doctor had some kind of old Jedi starfighter. Apparently he's into collecting that kind of nonsense stuff, and he let Kanan take it. Leia turns away from Han, who with his arms still raised, walks away and leaves Leia alone. For a very long moment then, Leia stands there, conflicted and in deep thought. Why would he leave me now? She wonders aloud to herself. That's when we see movement behind her. A dark-robed figure slowly and stealthily approaching, with an unignited saber in her hand. Leia's eyes suddenly go wide, and she grabs and ignites her blue saber and turns just in time to block Mara Jade's first attack. We then jump to a shot of a Jedi starfighter parked on the planet Adelon, and see Kanan as he approaches what at first appears to be nothing more than a mound of boulders, but soon the mound begins to move and comes to life, and it is, of course, the Bendu who immediately begins to speak, and as he does, we see that Kanan's eyes have been repaired. Ah, Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Knight, returns, his sight restored, but his vision more clouded than ever. Kanan stops before the Bendu and demands, I need answers, Bendu. I need to know what is the right way. The right way, the Bendu echoes. The right way for whom? Kanan replies, for the Jedi, because I feel conflicted. I feel anger towards the one responsible for the death of my Padawan, and I feel love for someone, real love, and I know these are emotions I shouldn't have. The Bendu leans a bit closer to Kanan with almost a grin on its ancient face. Shouldn't have? Or shouldn't embrace, you mean? Kanan gives a bit of a shrug. Shouldn't embrace, I suppose I mean. The Bendu then says, Then maybe it would surprise you to learn that the first Jedi embraced their emotions. Kanan shakes his head and says, I'm not so certain you're right about that. Oh? The Bendu snaps back. And were you there then? Kanan shakes his head. Of course not. Ah, but I was. And the Jedi of old were much different than the Jedi you know. Kanan then sits down and asks, Why'd they change? It was one family, a family very strong with the Force, that brought about the change, the Bendu begins. But Kanan interrupts. The Jedi were allowed to have families? Of course, the Bendu replies. And this family was made up of 3 who were very strong with the Force, perhaps the strongest ever known. But the strongest among them was the father, who almost single-handedly defeated the Sith of old, though some believe his 2 children, twins in fact, 1 boy, 1 girl, had more potential than even he did. Kanan shakes his head confused. I was never told any of this. What happened to them all? How did they change everything? The Bendu then answers, well, the daughter loved her father so much and was so pained by watching him age and approach death that she refused to accept his fate and became obsessed with saving him, so much so that it led her down a dark path. We then momentarily jump to a scene of Leia and Mara Jade still locked in a saber duel aboard the Falcon, and Mara Jade seems to be very much the aggressor, with Leia doing little more than fending off her repeated attacks. Soon enough, Mara Jade knocks Leia back and to the floor. She then stands over Leia and declares, "You are as pathetic as I expected from a Jedi. When I'm finished with you, I shall make sure your father joins you in death." Leia's look then instantly changes, and we see anger start to burn in her eyes. She springs to her feet and vows that no harm shall come to her father, not this day or any other while she still lives. The duel begins anew, with Leia now very much the aggressor, and with Mara Jade doing little more than fending off her attacks. We're then right away back with Kanan and the Bendu, and we hear Kanan ponder aloud, so, she started to turn to the dark side to save her father? And what about her twin brother? What did he do during all this? The Bendu responds, "Ah yes, the son. He was too caught up in trying to become ever more powerful, more so than even his father. But power without a true sense of purpose is the most dangerous thing of all." We then momentarily jump scenes again, and now we're with Luke and Ahsoka, who are in a dark place that seems to perhaps be a Sith temple. The two look upon an old stone wall covered in fading ruins that depict battles between ancient Sith and ancient Jedi. Ahsoka then gives a nod to Luke and backs away from the wall, while Luke shuts his eyes and raises his hand, and then the wall begins to tremble and crack, and eventually breaks and falls away, revealing a secret room that holds nothing more than a single Sith holocron upon a pedestal. We're then right away back with the Bendu and Kanan, and we hear the Bendu say, the son managed to unleash the Force in a way that it had never been before, but that power was too great for him, and the secrets that came with that power drove him mad and he ended his own life. But not before he hid the knowledge of how to unleash the Force again in a holocron, for he saw a day when one would come about who could wield the full power of the Force. Kanan nods, processing everything he's hearing, and asks, "And what became of the father and daughter?" The Bendu lets out something like a sigh. The daughter succeeded in saving her father by switching his very essence from the old dying body to a younger one, against her father's wishes though. And when the Jedi found out what she had done, they cast the family out of the order and deemed the father an abomination. They even then created a prophecy about how one day a chosen one would be born of the Force, the true return of the father, and that he would destroy the Sith once more and bring a final balance to the Force. They also henceforth banned any form of attachment to prevent such a thing from ever happening again. Kanan thinks on all that for a moment and then asks, what happened to the father after that? All his anger destroyed the man he once was, and he embraced the dark side fully and became something horrible and founded a new order of the Sith, though he never considered himself one of them, but rather something more, something like a dark side god. The irony in it all was the one who had destroyed the order would be the one to rebuild it. We then get a very quick flashback of Anakin in Revenge of the Sith marching upon the Jedi Temple, and then a shot of that very temple burning, before we're taken to a shot of the present, of the inside of the compound on Lothal Minor, and of Anakin, looking much like he once did years ago, only older and with a shaved and somewhat scarred head, putting on Jedi robes. We're then right away back with the Bendu and hear him say, in the end, the Destroyer was their salvation. Kanan then asks, what happened to the father next? After he rebuilt the Sith, how was he eventually destroyed? The Bendu shakes his head. Destroyed? No, he was merely stopped. Eventually the Jedi confronted him and his army of Sith, and though they could not destroy the father, they defeated him and locked him away in the unknown regions of this galaxy, where he remains to this day. The Sith then fractured, but one tried to hold them together, the apprentice of the father, who was nearly as powerful as he. But eventually the Sith turned on her and imprisoned her, using her essence to create a horrible weapon on the world of Malachor. We then jump scenes once again, and see Ahsoka, a wicked smile upon her face, watching as Luke lifts the holocron from the pedestal and immediately begins to unlock it. We're then right away back with the Bendu and Kanan, and the Bendu finishes, but she also made a prophecy before she was locked away, proclaiming that she would one day be set free, and would use the children of the false chosen one to restore her master to power and to rule the galaxy at his side for 1,000 more generations. Kanan gives a wry smile as the story ends. I'm not sure telling me all that helped in any way. The Bendu laughs. Rarely, Kanan Jarrus, does the Force give us what we want, but if our vision is clear, we will see it gives us what we need. Kanan smiles and laughs. I'm not sure those words helped much either. We're then back on the Falcon with Leia and Mara Jade, and Leia still has a look of anger upon her face, and still very much has Mara on the defensive. Finally, Leia hacks off Mara's hand holding the saber, and crying out in pain, Mara falls to her knees before Leia and bows her head as she sees Leia raise her saber above her head, ready to strike a killing blow. But then we hear a familiar voice cry out, "No, Leia, this is not the way of the Jedi." Leia looks up and sees her father, Anakin Skywalker, restored and free of the mechanical suit, and instead wearing Jedi robes. And that is where this part ends. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think of the story so far, and where it might be headed. So leave a comment below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until the next part, which I hope to have up again next Tuesday, thanks for watching.